Hello everyone, in today's video we're going to be breaking down a clip of Tony Robbins and looking at the persuasion, the marketing, the selling tactics, which he does in this clip, which you might not usually see. I've done a bunch of persuasion and psychology breakdowns on other influencers at the moment, everyone from Andrew Tate to Iman Gadji to Alex Hormozi to Conor McGregor, and they're very well received by you guys. And the reason for that is I think we're living in this world at the moment where there's lots of influencers, lots of gurus screaming from the rooftops telling you you need to do step A, B, and C to get successful, to build a business, to make money online. But the actions which they do are often very, very different from what they're telling you to do. And there's good reason for that, because them actions are actually what make them money. But to spot what actions they're doing, you actually have to be familiar with the persuasion principles. And companies actually hire me for my persuasion knowledge, for my marketing knowledge, to analyze their stuff and basically help them out with the psychology of the marketing and things like this. So the good news about that is I can see these techniques a mile away. I can see exactly what these guys are doing. And I thought, you know what? Why not just make this really obvious to everyone and give a breakdown of what these guys are doing? And I think that's why you guys like these videos so much. So, thank you very much for all the praise that you gave me over the last few months. And let's get straight to it. This clip right here is in an interview with Tony Robbins, where he is asked basically what tips and techniques he has for beginners in entrepreneurship. And he gives the tips and techniques, but he does also all these little influencing tactics during it as well. And it's fascinating to watch. It's a 6-minute clip, but there's no wonder why his net worth is reported to be around about the 500 million mark, according to many, many sources online. Some sources even say that he makes around about 60 million per year. Where did I just see that? Around about 60 million per year. I'm not sure how people have worked out or how true it is, but the guy's been around a minute. And he has made a killing during this time because he's such a big brand name. And I think it's always, always, always important that you learn from the people who've actually made a load of wealth, who've been in the game a long time, because then you can see really the full timeline of where their actions and their words, their persuasion, their influencing techniques, where they have eventually got themselves. Now here's the video, let's give it a watch.
Tony, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Brian.
Maybe look into this camera and give entrepreneurs, small business people, whatever, sort of your best advice for success. First maybe define, this is what we should be focused on. This is the definition of success. And maybe here are some tips how to get there.
People ask me all the time, what is success? And it's so individual. I would never tell somebody else what success is. I would say,
He's done already, just in the first few seconds of him talking, 2 very, very powerful persuasion principles. Did you spot them? Let's rewind that back and just see if you can see them.
people ask me all the time, what is success? And it's so individual. I would never tell somebody else what success is. I would say when most people...
People ask me all the time, first of all, he social proofed himself there straight away. And what social proof is it's the equivalent of giving testimonials, getting reviews. Social proof is the idea that humans do what other humans do. He's made himself even more appealing there by saying, people ask me all the time. It's probably true, but it was just a little tiny persuasion technique, he says. Next, what he does, which he's very, very, very good at, probably one of the best people at, is he uses empathy, and he uses it very, very well. And I think it's probably because he's in, the almost the life coaching niche, where it deals with a lot of people's, problems and traumas and things like that. But he says, first of all, I'll never tell somebody what their definition of success is. And he's using that empathy to really speak to them there.
When most people are pursuing success, I think what they're really pursuing is not a word. They're pursuing a greater quality of life. In order to have an extraordinary quality of life, it's got to be life on your terms. And, some people's idea of an extraordinary life is, writing beautiful poetry or having a garden. Some people's idea is building a billion-dollar company. Some people is 3.2 perfect children. I don't know what the 2 comes from, 0.2, but they do. Everyone has a different idea. So my approach to helping entrepreneurs, business people, or anyone is to say, you got to figure out what is an extraordinary life for you. What would that look like today? Not 5 years ago, 10 years ago, but today. The way you look at life alive instead of an old story. And then there's 2 skills you got to master.
Okay, so let's just break down what he's doing there. Very, very interesting. And he speaks in such a compelling way, such an empathetic way as well, which we've not really seen from too many of the other people who, who I've previously reviewed on this channel, and it works very, very well for him. And by the way, guys, when I'm like talking about these persuasion techniques and things, I'm not taking it away from him. I'm not saying like he's only doing this to persuade you, but he looks like he's genuinely trying to help. I know a lot of people find value in Tony Robbins stuff. I've read one of his books and I thought it was very, very valuable. But he has kept his message very broad market. He says, I'm not going to define success. It could be, being a billionaire, having, kids, whatever, right? When you are starting in business, it's very, very important that you pick a niche, because to go straight away for a big market message, it's going to be far too competitive. You're going to try and get your advice out to everyone and it's going to end up resonating with no one. But this is where the nuance comes in. He is a very, very big brand name. He has masses of followers. He's been in the game a minute. So when he goes for a generalized message, he can appeal to everyone. And people don't understand this. People see people like Tony Robbins who are appealing to everyone, in the life coaching niche or improve your life niche, and then they try and copy what he's doing, but it doesn't work for them. And it doesn't work for them because of those key factors I've just named right there as well. So he's incentivizing you to listen on by talking about the rewards of the pursuit of success, right? He's got specific on each of those wide market areas. It's very, very good, because humans only really move to action if they are A, either running from pain, or B, being incentivized towards reward. And straight away he's went in with the incentive towards reward, like this is what some people want. And then he's done this little open loop technique where he says there's 2 skills you've got to master. Now guess what? You've got to continue watching him, because he's opened this loop, which means you need to hear what those 2 skills are. It's why lists and items on a list and the top 7 things to make you rich are so popular amongst YouTubers as well, because that encourages retention, because you've got to stay till the loop is closed and listen to the full items of the list in case one of them is really important to you and resonates with you. It's human psychology.
Old story. Then there's 2 skills you got to master. The first one is the science of achievement, and it's a science. I spent 4 years interviewing these people, and I interviewed the smartest financial people in the world, and I picked no one from the Lucky Sperm Club. Nobody that inherited it. They all started with nothing, became multi-billionaires. And what you learn is they do it different ways, but there's some universal patterns, and success leaves clues. If you apply the same results, it's a recipe. It'll work for you too. I've done it, other people have done it. Same thing's true with your body. We're all biochemically unique, but there's...
See what he's doing here? He's talking about how there is actual ingredients to success, and he's went with, for the first example, science-based people, right? There's a science to it, which means there's a logic to it. There's a logical step. Right there, he's capturing the part of the audience who might actually be a bit more skeptical. This is called modulating your message in psychology and in marketing as well. So if you modulate your message, you can start appealing to many different groups rather than just one specific group. I imagine he will go a little bit deeper on this, because logical people tend to be the hardest to persuade when it comes to things like life coaching as well. It's just the personalities are a little bit mismatched with what the subject matter is.
Certain fundamentals are universal. There are laws. There's a science. If you violate them, you're going to have low energy disease. If you align with them, you're going to have high energy. So there's a science to achievement. But the second master lesson for an extraordinary life, I believe, is even more important, because I've dealt with so many achievers that are still miserable. They got everything. They got their Academy Award. They got their Golden Globe. They got, they took their company public. They got $1 billion net worth, and they're miserable. So to me, that's insane. And the reason is they missed the second master lesson of life, which I call the art of fulfillment. Art. It's not science.
Now what he's doing is he's modulating his message to the other group of people that he just alienated on the first bit there. So at the first he talked about the science-based logic thinking people and gave them a recipe. Now what he's doing is he's talking about the arty feeling type people. And this is actually based on Jungian psychology. So let's have a little look. So Carl Jung, who's known as one of the founders of modern psychology alongside Sigmund Freud, came up with the idea that humans typically divide into thinkers or feelers. And thinkers are, once again, more of those scientific, logic, only rely on facts type of people. And then you got feelers who try and make decisions more based on what their heart says. They're more sort of focused on people and values and things like that rather than logic and systems. And Tony, is cleverly just modulated his message to capture both of those people.
Because what's going to fulfill you is different than me or this gentleman here. I'm sorry, I don't know the cameraman's first name, but whoever it is that was with you. It's like, if you want to know what the universe or God loves, go to the forest. It's diversity. It's not the same thing. And when you look at, maybe a good example is if you go to an art show. You ever gone to an art show in LA or New York, like a high-end?
Again, he's using trigger words which are more going to resonate with people who are feeler personalities.
You walk in and you look at the painting show. You ever gone to an art show in LA or New York, like a high-end art show, and you walk in and you look at the painting and go, you're joking, right? This is not art, right? How much is it? And the guy goes, $10 million. You gotta be nuts. I'll give you an example. Steve Wynn, who owns the Wynn Hotels, as again, a good friend of mine, called me up on his birthday a few years ago. He says, Tony, come over to my house. He goes, it's my birthday. I said, I know, I'm looking forward to seeing you. He goes, no, you gotta see something. He said, I have coveted this painting for years, and I just outbid everybody. I spent $80 million for this picture. And I was like, painting. And I said, oh my God, I can't wait to see it. So I'm picturing, I don't know, some Renaissance thing.
Don't know if you guys can see my facial reactions, but $80 million for a painting. What type do you think I fall into on those, Jungian thinker versus feeler? Would I be a thinker? Would I be a feeler? But I just want to comment on what he did there was very, very clever. And so he's telling this compelling story about his friend Steve Wynn, who owns Wynn Hotels, who's bought this $80 million painting, right? This is called mere association bias. So you will see people like Ty Lopez, they're constantly name dropping popular figures, right? And there's a reason for it. If you look at when popular products get promoted by celebrities, for instance, like Kim Kardashian will suddenly be using a lip gloss and it encourages hundreds of thousands of sales of this, or Miley Cyrus will be doing something, or Kanye West will be signing with Nike or whatever. I don't know. I'm not up to date on all these celebrity endorsements, but basically they'll endorse a product and it's called mere association bias. And what happens is people will see a person who is a public figure and they will think to themselves, well, if that celebrity is using that product, then, I will want to use it as well because I like that celebrity, so I now like that product as well. And this hurts some people to hear, but humans are pretty much click word machines, right? A influencing factor happens, such as a celebrity buying a product, and now you like that celebrity, you also like that product as well. It's as simple as that, but it also works a little bit in reverse as well. So if you constantly reference, I'm friends with this person, or I was having a conversation with this person, people will then look at you and think, well, they must have to be friends with that person, or to quote them, to know them enough to quote them. They must have a little bit of that person's status. So their status actually raises in the eyes. So what Tony is doing right here is increasing his own authority and status by saying, my friend, he invited me to his party and he's got this $80 million painting on the wall, which is showing that, for the people who aren't familiar with Tony, straight away that it's almost like a little bit of a humble brag that he knows people with wealth. He's extremely well connected. His friend who owns this chain of hotels as well. It's mere association bias. Now, he's just telling a story, but I'm just explaining like the psychology behind it. This story no doubt did happen, but I'm just saying like, this is how you can get influenced.
And I show up and it's a Rothko. You know what a Rothko is?
No.
It's an orange and red square, a big giant orange and red square. And it was $80 million. And I said, Steve, I said, give me $100 worth of paint in an hour. I can pull the shit off. I can promise you. And he laughed. He goes, no, you don't know the story. And here's what's so cool. He finds $80 million of the value there because he must be 100 times more sophisticated than I am. Because I'm going, it's an orange and red square, right? The beauty of life is our diversity. If you want to see the ultimate failure in life, it's success without fulfillment. That's the ultimate failure. The art of fulfillment, I think, is the more important of the two. So look in the camera and talk to these entrepreneurs and say, what's the most important key to success? I think it's hunger. It's not getting satisfied. If you look at a Mark Benioff at Salesforce, if you look at Richard Branson's friend of mine, or you look at anyone you respect who's achieved at the highest level, intelligence is an incredibly important distinction and a valuable thing to have in life. But I always tell people, you can find so many intelligent people that can't fight their way out of a paper bag. What matters is hunger. a hunger that doesn't go, a hunger to learn, a hunger to grow, a hunger to serve, a hunger to give, a hunger to create breakthroughs. Most people are hungry till they make a certain amount of money and then they get comfortable. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's not about the money. It's not about the business. It's about your growth. Because every one of us either grows or dies. People ask me all the time, what does it take to be happy? I say one word, progress. Progress equals happiness, because achieving a goal.
Just pausing that there, because isn't he a fantastic motivational speaker? Just listen to something that he's doing right now, which he's speaking with absolute conviction. This is also a trait of highly, highly persuasive people. When they speak, sometimes they'll yell, right? Sometimes they will say it in, you know, an empathetic way, as Tony's saying it right here. But what they're saying it with absolute conviction, absolute certainty. And there's a vibe which we get from people who speak like this. And the vibe is basically, it rubs off on you. When somebody else is certain on something, you become certain on something. I'm gonna do a little experiment with you, a persuasion experiment, and I want you to play along with it. And it's how conviction can make you feel as the viewer, okay? So let's just say you're lost in a city or wherever, countryside, wherever, and you stop me as I'm walking past you and you ask me for directions to your nearest train station, right? Say train station, everyone knows what a train is, right? And so you stop me, you say, hey there, sorry to bother you, I'm actually really lost, I'm new to the area, can you point me in the direction to the nearest train station? And I reply to you and I say, I think you go left, you go straight on here, and then you turn left at your next road, and after you've turned left, you just think about this. I think you just carry on after that. Yeah, that's right. You just carry on, right? Now rate me on a scale of 0 to 10 of how confident you feel those instructions are and how that makes you feel. Do you feel that you are actually potentially could take my instructions and get lost? And now, once again, let's play this scenario back. And you're gonna ask me again, hey there, stranger, sorry to bother you. I'm actually new to the area. I'm really lost. Could you tell me the directions to get to the nearest train station, please? I say, yeah, no problem. What you have to do is you have to go straight to the end here. You turn left, it's straight to the end of the road. The train station is right in front of you there. So straight to the end, left, straight to the end again, train station is right in front of you. You can't miss it. Do you feel how much more persuaded and at ease and how certain you are? Because I was certain as well. So certainty is a very, very powerful thing. And when public figures use it as well, it's very, very powerful. It has this influence and effect. And it's not as black and white as getting directions, but if they're certain on one thing, you're probably going to listen to them on something else as well. It triggers this almost trust in you that you can now trust this figure, you'll trust them on other subjects. They're certain, so you're certain. You feel at ease.
Goal feels good for how long? A week, a month, 3 months, and then there needs to be something else. And the reason for something else is because you got to grow. And I think if you can decide that success is life on your terms, but it's also a meaningful life where you found something you care about more than yourself that you want to serve, whether it's your family or a community or a mission or your company, then you're blessed. And success is that experience of not only achievement, but fulfillment. And it can't be achieved unless you're growing and unless you're giving in ways that you're not positioning the giving. It's not what other people say, it's what you know in your soul. And I think if you can find those things inside yourself, they're not easy, but they're worth it. You'll have a life that will look like a dream to other people, and they'll all think you're lucky because we're all rewarded in public for what we've practiced continuously in private.
So it's only a quick clip that. It's a 6-minute clip, and he gave some absolutely killer advice for entrepreneurs, and the advice I completely agree with. But there's that other side of the advice as well, and he's slipped in all these influencing and persuasion tactics throughout, which is gonna basically make you listen to him a bit more. I remember on a previous video, I was breaking down some of the persuasion tactics that Iman Gaji was using in one of his videos, right? And he was doing all these persuasion tactics, but he didn't actually sell anything at the end. A few people pointed out on the video, they were like, hey, you know, how can it be persuasion when he's not actually selling anything at the end? It doesn't matter. You can be persuaded on a person's brand. And if you like that advice from what you've just heard from Tony there, you will no doubt listen to, something else of him where he might do a call to action and might be trying to sell you a product as well. Brand is everything, right? And he's obviously given a lot throughout his lifetime. He's also gave a lot of good advice in that video as well. But not only did he give a lot in that video, he slipped in these little persuasion tactics. And I think sometimes when I point out the persuasion tactics that all these public figures are doing, it's not that these guys are doing this deliberately. I imagine 50% of the tactics are probably deliberate in the video, because highly persuasive figures always know how to persuade. If anyone's amassed a big audience, they haven't cheated the way to the top with like bots or fake engagement and all this to try and get themselves to the top. If they've actually amassed a big audience and they haven't done things like that, they generally are a highly persuasive figure, and they will know some of these tactics from just all the huge amount of interactions that they've had with people. They'll know that these tactics are effective in terms of, influencing people. But it doesn't mean that they're always doing the tactics deliberately. Often, highly persuasive people are aware of these tactics, but often they are just persuasive. They are naturally persuasive. They've been persuasive since they were younger. Sometimes persuasion is something which can be studied, which I had to do. I was a naive person. I was, incredibly trusting, and then I went very cynical on things, and then I kind of brought myself back to the middle where I was aware of all the persuasion stuff and I educated myself. It's why I do what I do now. But then there's the other side of it, that these public figures who have, really got a huge audience together, they are just naturally persuasive. It's very hard to talk in a tone of conviction and certainty when you aren't certain on what you're, trying to sell or the message that you're trying to push. That is very, very hard to fake, because it comes through in your voice. It gives all these little tells on that you maybe are unsure about what you're talking about, or that you don't fully support the message. It's why salespeople who don't fully believe in the product that they're trying to sell, they're usually not very good salespeople, but people who do actually get that belief in the product, who do genuinely believe in the product that they're trying to sell, they will always crush it, right? Well, usually always crush it, because you can't really just put on that you're certain. So basically, some of those things are probably just down to him being a persuasive person. And guys, I really just want to emphasize one of the key persuasion things he does here, and he does it so well. It's the whole empathy thing he does. And it's a genuine act, which is why it works, by the way. A lot of people try and fake empathy, but he's constantly thinking of the viewer. He's empathizing with their position on things. He's saying like, look, success is very different to different sorts of people, and that's really up to you what it's like. It works incredibly, incredibly well for him. One of the companies I consult for, it's a 9-figure company. They use empathy predominantly. That is their main marketing tactic, should we say, right? And it works unbelievably well, to the point where they do 9 figures, right? And it's just such a powerful thing that people forget about. We have a lot of the alpha males at the moment where they are saying, you have to constantly push through it, be really, really resilient. And I agree with all those messages, by the way. But they would be wise to mix it up a little bit and actually empathize with the viewer, because that is very, very effective. We all, as human beings, have this deep-seated need to be understood, to be felt, to, sit there and think, this person actually gets me. And empathy is the best way to do that. So if you're marketing your customers, your clients, whatever you do, if it's more of a feeling niche, can be thinking as well, but if they have these pain points where they're actually very, very difficult to overcome, they might be traumatic, they might be, unbelievable obstacles your customers or clients have to face, make sure you acknowledge them. Make sure you say, this is an incredible, tough position. Make sure you don't sympathize, though. That actually puts people off. Don't sympathize with the position. Empathy is where, you help get them out of the grave. Sympathy is where you jump in the grave with them, right? So I think that is one of his most effective tactics. And I think that you guys should use it wherever possible. If you guys liked this clip on Tony Robbins, I could break down a longer clip of him and actually go into some more of the selling tactics that he does on stage. Feel free to send me clips as well and ask me to break them down. You know, it's actually quite hard to find clips myself. If you guys think somebody's doing something, maybe like a bit of sleight of hand where they're saying one thing to you but doing something else, you can always just send me those clips. You can connect with me over Instagram. If you just go on my actual YouTube channel, my social links are at the top there, and I'll do my best to break it down for you. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, leave me a like, leave me a comment. Take it easy. See you in the next one.